When you think of fast food, McDonald's is likely the first name that comes to mind. It's an American institution, really. But for every smash hit, like the Big Mac, their history is littered with some truly fascinating and often baffling experiments. We're taking a nostalgic trip down memory lane to uncover the forgotten, the bizarre, and even the beloved items that just couldn't make the cut. McSpaghetti. All right, let's set the scene. It's the late 1980s, and you pull into the familiar drive-thru under the Golden Arches. You glance at the menu board, expecting the usual suspects, but then you see it. An option that feels like it's from an alternate universe. Instead of a burger, you could order spaghetti. Yes, you heard that right. McSpaghetti wasn't just a clever name, it was a genuine, full-throated attempt by McDonald's to break into the world of Italian-American comfort food. They served a portion of pasta topped with a fairly standard marinara sauce, sometimes with a meatball or two thrown in for good measure. The corporate thinking must have been to capture a larger share of the family dinner market. Perhaps they envisioned families where one person could have a quarter pounder while others opted for pasta, making McDonald's a true one-stop shop. They even expanded the experiment for a short time. Test marketing dishes like lasagna and fettuccine alfredo in some locations. It was a bold, if not completely bewildering, strategy. The core issue, however, was a fundamental brand mismatch. People came to McDonald's for speed, consistency, and a very specific type of American meal. Ordering pasta felt out of place, almost like trying to buy a tire at a bakery, while the Italian venture quickly fizzled out in the United States. Here's the unbelievable part. McSpaghetti became a massive success in other parts of the world, most notably in the Philippines. There, it was adapted to local tastes with a sweeter sauce and remains a beloved best-selling staple on the menu to this day. McPizza. Believe it or not, there was a time when McDonald's seriously considered going head-to-head with the likes of Pizza Hut and Domino's. Back in the late 1980s and into the 90s, they rolled out the McPizza with considerable ambition and a hefty investment. Initially, the concept was a family-sized pizza designed to be shared, further supporting the idea that they wanted to be the go-to destination for family dinners. The problem was immediate and obvious to anyone who has ever waited for a pizza. It takes time to cook. The core promise of McDonald's has always been speed. In a business built on 60-second service goals, an 11-minute bake time for a pizza felt like an eternity. The kitchen logistics were a nightmare. It required installing special, expensive ovens that were bulky and didn't fit the existing kitchen workflow, slowing down the entire production line. They later pivoted to a smaller, personal-sized pizza, hoping to shorten the cook time, but it barely made a dent. Customers grew impatient, and the staff grew frustrated, faced with operational headaches and, frankly, a pizza that was often described by critics as just okay. The company finally had to admit defeat. The McPizza was slowly phased out and mostly gone by the year 2000, serving as a classic business school lesson. Don't stray so far from what you do best. McDLT. You have to hand it to them. The idea behind the McDLT, introduced with great fanfare in 1984, was genuinely brilliant. It addressed a timeless fast food conundrum. How do you keep the hot parts of a burger hot and the cold toppings, like lettuce and tomato, crisp and cool? The solution was a masterstroke of packaging engineering. They created a special, two-chambered styrofoam container. One side held the hot beef patty and bottom bun, while the other side kept the cool lettuce, tomato, cheese, pickles, and top bun perfectly chilled. The customer would then assemble the burger themselves right before eating. The marketing campaign, featuring a very young Jason Alexander, was built around a catchy jingle, "Keep the hot side hot and the cool side cool." People actually loved it. The result was a noticeably fresher tasting burger, and for a time, it was a huge hit. So, what went wrong? The very thing that made it unique, its packaging. By the early 1990s, the environmental movement was gaining serious momentum, and styrofoam, with its non-biodegradable nature, became a primary target of green campaigns. That iconic two-sided container suddenly looked less like an innovation and more like an environmental hazard. As public pressure mounted, McDonald's had to make a choice, and the McDLT, a product so inseparable from its controversial packaging, got the axe in the name of corporate responsibility. McLobster, just when you thought the menu couldn't get any more surprising, McDonald's decided to venture into the world of upscale seafood with the McLobster in the 1990s. This wasn't some imitation crab or pollock concoction. This was a sandwich filled with actual 100% real lobster meat, lightly tossed in mayonnaise and celery, and served in a toasted hot dog-style bun. It was a premium item, a bold attempt to offer a taste of New England luxury at a fast food price point. For a moment, it seemed like a wonderfully absurd and ambitious idea that might just work. The downfall of the McLobster came down to simple, cold, hard economics. Lobster is a notoriously volatile and expensive commodity. Maintaining a consistent nationwide supply chain for fresh lobster meat proved to be an incredible logistical and financial challenge for a company built on mass purchasing and predictable costs. The price of the sandwich had to fluctuate with the market price of lobster, sometimes making it one of the most expensive items on the menu. This created an inconsistency that fast food customers generally don't appreciate. While it was too costly and complex to maintain as a permanent national item, the McLobster didn't disappear entirely. It still makes seasonal reappearances in the summer months in areas where lobster is plentiful and more affordable, like Atlantic Canada and parts of New England. A little taste of a failed national dream. Hula Burger. For this next one, we have to travel all the way back to the 1960s, a time of great experimentation for the growing company. McDonald's founder, the legendary Ray Kroc, noticed that sales in heavily Catholic neighborhoods were dipping significantly on Fridays due to the religious practice of abstaining from meat. He was determined to find a solution to keep his restaurants busy. His personal brainchild was the Hula Burger. Now, get ready for this. It consisted of a thick slice of grilled pineapple topped with a slice of melted cheese, served on a toasted bun. That's it. No meat, no fish, just hot pineapple and cheese. Kroc was apparently convinced this tropical meatless creation was the answer. At the same time, a franchisee in Cincinnati named Lou Groen was facing the exact same problem and had developed his own solution, a simple battered fish sandwich he called the Filet-O-Fish. Kroc and Groen made a friendly wager to see which sandwich would sell better on a trial Friday. The result wasn't even close. The Filet-O-Fish was a runaway success, selling hundreds of units, while the Hula Burger was a legendary flop, barely selling any. Customers were understandably baffled by the pineapple and cheese combination. It serves as a great reminder that even a visionary founder can have a truly terrible idea. And sometimes the best innovations come from the folks on the front lines. McSoup. Think about the typical McDonald's meal. It's designed to be eaten quickly, often with one hand, and frequently inside a car. Burgers, fries, and nuggets are perfectly suited for this on-the-go lifestyle. Now, picture trying to manage a cup of piping hot soup while navigating traffic or sitting at your desk. It sounds like a recipe for a first-degree burn and a ruined car interior, doesn't it? Well, that didn't stop McDonald's from giving it a shot. For a brief and perplexing period, they offered something called McSoup on their menu boards. It was often a simple chicken noodle or tomato soup, served in a coffee-style cup with a lid. The entire concept seemed flawed from the very beginning. Beyond the logistical nightmare of consuming hot liquid in a non-traditional setting, the product itself failed to impress. Rumors and customer comments swirled that it was simply reheated Campbell's soup, which, whether true or not, didn't exactly scream culinary innovation or give people a reason to choose it over the offerings at home. Unsurprisingly, McSoup evaporated from the menu boards as quickly as it appeared, leaving us to wonder what they were thinking in the first place. Onion nuggets. Everybody agrees that onion rings are a fantastic side dish for a burger. It's a classic beloved pairing in American diners and drive-ins. Back in the late 1970s, McDonald's decided they wanted a piece of that onion action, but in true McDonald's fashion, with their own signature McNugget-style spin. Instead of rings, they introduced onion nuggets. The idea was simple and, honestly, sounded pretty delicious. Bite-sized pieces of chopped onion formed into a nugget shape, battered in a style similar to their chicken nuggets, and then deep-fried to a crispy, golden brown. They were designed to be the perfect, poppable, savory snack to enjoy alongside a Big Mac. You can just imagine dipping those little morsels in some barbecue or sweet and sour sauce. On paper, it sounds like a can't-miss idea, a logical extension of their nugget concept, and yet for reasons that remain a bit of a mystery to fast food historians, they never caught on with the public. They were introduced around the same time as another experiment, the chopped beef steak sandwich, and both items quietly faded into obscurity without much fanfare. The onion nuggets exist now only as a footnote, a tasty-sounding memory that many of us wish we could have tried. Spanish omelette bagel. In the early 2000s, McDonald's was looking to add a little more flair and variety to its breakfast menu, which had long been dominated by the classic and relatively simple Egg McMuffin. Their answer was the Spanish omelette bagel. On paper, it certainly sounded more sophisticated and flavorful than the standard offerings. The sandwich featured a folded egg omelette that was mixed with bits of savory ham, onions, and peppers, then topped with a slice of spicy pepper jack cheese, and all of it served on a toasted plain bagel. The goal was clearly to provide a zesty, slightly more adult breakfast option for customers who wanted a break from the norm. The name Spanish was meant to evoke a bit of spice and excitement, a departure from the everyday. However, despite the appealing combination of ingredients, it never really resonated with the morning crowd. Perhaps it was a little too complex or adventurous for that time of day, when most people are on autopilot and just want their familiar coffee and McMuffin. Sales were sluggish from the start, and the Spanish omelette bagel was quietly retired, proving that when it comes to the morning rush, simple and familiar often wins the day. McStuffins. The 1990s were the heyday of convenient, microwavable snacks, and none were more iconic or ubiquitous than Hot Pockets. McDonald's, ever watchful of food trends and what people were eating at home, saw the immense popularity of these stuffed sandwiches and decided to create their own version. They called them McStuffins. Introduced in 1993, these were sections of French bread that had been hollowed out and then filled with various savory stuffings, like teriyaki chicken, pepperoni pizza, or a Philly cheesesteak filling, before being toasted to be warm and crusty. The concept seemed sound. It was a portable, self-contained meal that could be eaten easily on the go, much like their other menu items. It was like a slightly more rustic, fast food version of the snack it was inspired by. But for some reason, the public just shrugged. Maybe the idea felt a bit too much, like something you could easily get from the freezer aisle at the grocery store. Or perhaps when people made a conscious decision to go to McDonald's, their minds were already set on the classic burger and fries experience they knew and loved. The McStuffins never found their audience and were discontinued before they ever had a chance to become a staple. McJordan. In the early 1990s, there was no bigger star on the planet than Michael Jordan. His dominance on the basketball court translated into unparalleled cultural influence and marketing power. McDonald's, in a brilliant marketing move, teamed up with his airness to create a signature burger, the McJordan Special. This was a limited, regional item, tested primarily in the Chicago area, where Jordan was treated as a living legend. So, what was it? At its core, it was a quarter-pounder patty on a sesame seed bun. But the genius was in the details that set it apart. It was served with a specific set of toppings reportedly requested by Jordan himself: pickles, raw circular onions, smoky bacon, and a generous pour of tangy barbecue sauce instead of the usual ketchup and mustard. The truly unique touch, a small but clever detail, was the bacon. It was a perfectly round slice designed to cover the entire patty, ensuring you got that smoky, salty flavor in every single bite. While it was a huge hit with fans in Chicago, it was never intended for a national, permanent rollout. It was a perfect snapshot of a time and a place, a successful promotional burger forever tied to a global icon. Salad shakers. For decades, McDonald's has been trying to crack the code of selling salads to a customer base that's primarily there for indulgent burgers and fries. In the early 2000s, they came up with one of their most creative and talked about attempts, the salad shakers. The presentation was genuinely novel and addressed a real problem. Instead of a clumsy bowl or box, the salad ingredients lettuce, vegetables, cheese, and grilled chicken were neatly packed into a tall, transparent beverage cup, much like a McFlurry cup. The process was interactive and, for a time, quite fun. You would receive your cup of salad and a packet of dressing. You'd pour the dressing in, snap the domed lid back on, and then shake it vigorously to coat every leaf evenly. It was a clever way to solve the problem of messy, unevenly dressed salads, especially for those eating in their cars. For a while, the novelty factor worked, and people were intrigued, but ultimately, the core problem remained. Most people just don't go to McDonald's with a salad as their primary craving. The fun of shaking wore off. Sales couldn't sustain the product line, and the salad shakers were eventually shaken right off the menu. Chicken Selects. In 2004, in an effort to offer a more premium chicken option that could appeal to adults, McDonald's introduced Chicken Selects. These were a clear and intentional departure from the classic, processed and formed McNuggets. Chicken Selects were made from actual strips of whole chicken tenderloin, which were then seasoned, coated in a special breading with visible pepper flakes, and deep-fried to a golden crisp. They were designed to look and taste more like something you'd get at a casual dining restaurant. They were meatier, juicier, and had a more substantial texture than a McNugget. They were positioned as a higher quality choice, a bridge between fast food and a restaurant-style chicken strip. And for many people, they were a definite hit and developed a loyal following. The problem was that they never came close to challenging the popularity or sales volume of their iconic, cheaper, older sibling, the McNugget. They existed in a strange middle ground, more expensive than nuggets, but not quite a full meal. After years of respectable but unspectacular sales, McDonald's phased them out to simplify their menu. They've made a few brief, limited time-only comebacks since, much to the delight of their fans, but they've never managed to stick around for good. Fruit and walnut salad. Here's another noble attempt from McDonald's to add a healthier, lighter option to its menu, this time targeting the snack and dessert crowd. Debuting in 2005, the fruit and walnut salad was a refreshing departure from the usual savory fare. This wasn't a leafy green salad, it was a convenient snack-sized container filled with crisp, pre-sliced apples, sweet red grapes, and a separate packet of sweet, candied walnuts to add a bit of crunch and indulgence. It was often paired with a low-fat vanilla yogurt for dipping or mixing in. The intention was clear: to offer a wholesome snack, a light dessert alternative, or even a different kind of breakfast item. On its own merits, the product was actually quite good. The fruit was fresh, and the candied walnuts added a delightful touch that made it feel like a treat. But once again, it ran into the wall of customer expectations and brand identity. People walking into a McDonald's are mentally prepared for savory, indulgent food. A fruit salad, no matter how well made, just didn't align with the treat-yourself mentality that drives most visits. It languished on the menu for a while before quietly disappearing. Another victim of a brand being too strong in one area to succeed in another. Mighty Wings. In the fall of 2013, McDonald's decided to make a big, bold entry into the highly competitive bone-in chicken wing market with their Mighty Wings. The timing seemed right, as chicken wings were exploding in popularity at sports bars and casual restaurants across the country. These were sizable, bone-in chicken wings and drumettes, coated in a breading that was advertised as being spicy and flavorful, and then fried until crispy. They were meant to be a serious contender. The company went all in on the launch, placing a massive order for an estimated 50 million pounds of chicken wings from their suppliers, fully expecting them to be a blockbuster hit. Unfortunately, the public responded with a collective and costly meh. The launch was a disaster. Customers complained that the price point was too high for a fast food item and, more damningly, that the wings weren't nearly as mighty or spicy as advertised. Sales were incredibly disappointing, leaving McDonald's with a £10 million surplus of unsold, frozen wings. They were forced to slash prices dramatically just to clear the inventory, selling them at a loss. Once the wings were gone, they were gone for good. A costly lesson in overestimating demand and under-delivering on flavor. Fish McBites riding the wave of bite-sized everything, and launched around the same time as the ill-fated Mighty Wings. In 2013, McDonald's introduced Fish McBites. The concept was a direct parallel to their wildly successful Chicken McNuggets and popcorn chicken from competitors. They were small, poppable pieces of flaky white fish, the same Alaskan pollock used in the beloved Filet-O-Fish, coated in a light batter and deep-fried. They were served in a familiar cardboard box with tartar sauce for dipping. The launch was strategically timed to coincide with the beginning of the Lenten season, a period when sales of fish products traditionally spike in the United States. It seemed like a smart, can't-miss idea. They were essentially a more snackable, kid-friendly version of their already popular fish sandwich, and yet they failed to make any significant splash in the market. Perhaps the public was perfectly content with the classic Filet-O-Fish and didn't see the need for a deconstructed version. Or maybe the idea of fish nuggets just didn't have the same broad appeal as their chicken counterpart. Whatever the case, sales fizzled out quickly, and the Fish McBites swam off the menu by the end of that same year. Son of a Mac. The Big Mac is an undisputed icon, a titan of the fast food world. But let's be honest, sometimes it's just a lot of burger. With 2 beef patties and that extra middle bun, it can be a hefty meal. Back in 2007, McDonald's acknowledged this by introducing a smaller, more manageable version called the Son of a Mac, though it was more formally known as the Mac Jr. The concept was brilliantly simple. Take all the classic Big Mac ingredients that people love, the unforgettable special sauce, the crisp lettuce, the cheese, pickles, and onions on that signature sesame seed bun, but build it around just 1 beef patty and get rid of the middle bun. It offered that iconic, one-of-a-kind Big Mac flavor profile in a size that was less overwhelming and easier to eat. It seemed like a solid idea for those who loved the taste, but not the sheer bulk of the original. Surprisingly, though, it didn't gain enough traction to stick around permanently in most markets. It would pop up as a limited-time offer alongside a larger Grand Mac, but it was eventually discontinued as a regular feature, leaving fans of the smaller format to try and custom order their single-patty Mac Fix, which is never quite the same. McFeast. The McFeast has had a fascinating and winding journey, popping up in different forms and different places all over the world across several decades. The core idea, however, was usually consistent: a quarter-pound beef patty served with fresh lettuce, tomato, and a special, tangy sauce. This McFeast sauce was the key element, often described as a sort of creamy, tomato-based, slightly mustardy concoction that set it apart from a regular cheeseburger. It aimed to be a slightly more deluxe or fresh burger option. While it disappeared from menus in many countries, including the USA, years ago, it's actually made successful and permanent comebacks elsewhere. For instance, it returned to menus in Australia around 2014 and proved to be incredibly popular, becoming a staple item for McDonald's Down Under. It also has a strong presence in some Nordic countries. So, while the McFeast is a discontinued memory for many Americans, it lives on as a fan favorite in other parts of the world, proving that a good, unique sauce can give a burger lasting appeal, at least on a regional basis. Hot and spicy McChicken. For those who found the regular McChicken sandwich to be a little too tame and one-note, McDonald's offered a fiery and beloved alternative. Starting in the early 2000s, the hot and spicy McChicken. It took the basic and successful McChicken formula, a breaded chicken patty, shredded lettuce, and mayonnaise on a simple bun, but used a chicken patty that was seasoned with a potent blend of spicy peppers and seasonings to give it a noticeable and satisfying kick. It wasn't overwhelmingly hot for most people, but it definitely had more zest and a lingering warmth that the original lacked. It quickly developed a pretty dedicated, almost cult-like following among spice lovers who appreciated the affordable heat and the perfect crunch. However, it seems that passionate following wasn't quite large enough on a national scale to justify its permanent place on the menu. McDonald's eventually discontinued it around 2006, leading to years of online petitions and fan outcry. People still miss it and often clamor for its return, fondly remembering that perfect, simple, spicy sandwich. Strawberry Shortcake McFlurry. Oh, this one broke some hearts when it left for good. For dessert lovers, the Strawberry Shortcake McFlurry was a seasonal masterpiece. Imagine McDonald's famously creamy vanilla soft-serve ice cream, blended with chunks of buttery shortcake or cake-like crumbles, and then swirled generously with a sweet, vibrant strawberry topping. It perfectly captured the essence of a classic, homemade strawberry shortcake in a cool, convenient, spoonable treat. It was the taste of summer in a cup, introduced often as a seasonal or limited-time offering. It consistently proved to be incredibly popular whenever it appeared on the menu boards. People genuinely loved it, and its return was always anticipated. Despite its clear fan favorite status, McDonald's eventually stopped bringing it back, much to the dismay of dessert enthusiasts everywhere. While they still offer basic strawberry sundaes and shakes, it's just not the same delightful blend of textures and comforting flavors that made the Strawberry Shortcake McFlurry such a beloved, albeit temporary, hit. Cheddar Melt. Here's a real throwback to the late 1980s. First appearing around 1988, the Cheddar Melt. This burger was a concerted effort to create a richer, more savory, and cozier flavor profile. It featured a standard quarter-pound beef patty, but instead of a simple slice of American cheese, it was topped with a warm, gooey, melted cheddar cheese sauce. Adding to the unique flavor were savory teriyaki-glazed sautéed or grilled onions, and perhaps most distinctively, it wasn't served on the usual white bun. McDonald's put the cheddar melt on a darker rye bun, giving it a unique taste and appearance that stood out from everything else on the menu. It sounded like a warm, comforting, and flavorful combination, especially with the interesting rye bun twist. For a time, it had its fans who enjoyed the departure from the standard burger formula. However, it never quite became a permanent staple, instead adopting a pattern of disappearing and then reappearing briefly as a limited-time promotion a few times over the years before ultimately fading away for good, becoming a fondly remembered oddity from the 80s. Well, one thing is for sure, McDonald's has never been afraid to throw things at the menu board and see what sticks. While plenty of these ideas didn't make the cut long-term, that same willingness to try something new gave us classics like the Big Mac and McNuggets. These discontinued items might be gone, but they've left behind some interesting stories and fond memories for those who remember them.